Hey guys, I'm here.
Hi Nick.
Hello. It's getting awkward now. We've got a different video today. It's going to be probably a two-part video. I'm not sure how this is going to go yet, but basically ASUSTOR sent us one of these. Let's try that again. I'm going to get this right one day. One more. They sent us one of these. The AS5304 NAS. Now, I've seen a few people talk about this NAS a bit, and obviously this box is empty, so it's lighter than it should be. They've talked about it and they said, hey, look, this is like kind of for gaming. I have a different use case for it. We're gonna use it for our video storage server for all of our raw footage and all of our rushes. And I wanted to kind of go through that setup, not in this video. What we're gonna do in this part is we're just gonna take it out of the box, have a look, put the drives in, and yeah, have a little bit of look at a pretty basic setup. In the next part, we'll probably go into a really in-depth setup. That will probably come sometime next week. I don't know yet. But Seagate was kind enough to send us not one, not two, not three, but 4 16 terabyte Iron Wolf drives to chuck in this guy. This one's got 4 gigs of RAM, a quad core Celeron, but we're gonna talk about all of that in a minute. So yeah, do that intro thing.
Hey.
It's empty, it's okay. Like I mentioned in the intro, this is kind of, I hate saying this, but it's a gaming focused NAS device, and we're not going to be using it for that use case. We're going to be using it for a thing to add to our video editing pipeline and just kind of our workflow. If you remember back a little bit earlier in the year, you would have seen that Seagate actually sent us some drives for another storage server project. But that's our current primary storage server, and if you want to see that build, it's up there. It's running a Threadripper, it's really powerful, it's kind of over the top. And yeah, so basically the story behind us getting this NAS, we're in Taiwan. ASUSTOR was like, hey, do you want a NAS? We saw that you did a storage server video. We think we might have something that might interest you. I was like, yes. And then Seagate was like, hey, we heard that ASUSTOR is sending you that NAS enclosure. Do you need some more drives? And yeah. The rest is history. So yeah, let's get it out of the box and take a little bit of a look, and we'll go through a pretty basic setup. We're not gonna go through link aggregation or any of that stuff on this video. I feel like I'm gonna show you how we're gonna properly set this up in the next part. But anyway, with all that aside, let's get into it. Okay, we're unboxing the ASUSTOR 5304T NAS. Now this is a inverted commas gaming NAS. I don't actually agree with that because NAS devices are for network storage, not specifically for gaming. Anyway, let's get the NAS out of the way and let's take a look at the little accessory box. Now I'm going to forewarn you, there's not a lot in this accessory box. It's basically just this. A power brick and a power cable. This is the Australian power cable. If you haven't seen one before, that's what it looks like. There's also some screws to mount some SSDs in the hard drive sleds. There's 2 Ethernet cables for the two 2.5 gigabit Ethernet connections. There's a quick start guide. And yeah, that's basically it. There's not a lot going on here. And yeah, let's take a little bit closer look at that NAS and do everyone's favorite thing. Let's peel that plastic off. Okay, ladies and gentlemen, it's your favorite part of every video that we ever do with this plastic. It's time to do that mystical peel. Let's see if we get a good one happening today. Ooh, that started off pretty good. Ooh. That's not what I was trying to do at all. Ooh, that's actually starting to sound pretty good now. I'm trying to make this look elegant, alright? Third time. I don't want to get my fingerprints on it. Alright, let's see. Let's go one more time. Ooh, that last bit was pretty good. I could have gone slower. Okay, we got one more chance of this because there's one more part. Okay, all quiet on the set. Let's see what happens. That's satisfying. Okay, let's take a look at all the bits and pieces with this NAS. The ASUSTOR 5304T supports up to 64 terabytes of storage in 4 drive sleds. So that's 16 terabytes per drive, and we're lucky enough to have 4 16 terabyte drives. So let's get those sleds out so we can populate them. But before we do that, let's take a little bit of a look at the backplane. Now this is a SATA backplane. I'm not sure if it supports SAS drives. I don't think so, I could be wrong, but yeah, this is designed to be run with regular off-the-shelf SATA drives. Another awesome thing about this NAS is you can upgrade the RAM. We've got the 4GB version. I do have another 4GB stick somewhere, I couldn't find it, but I will be populating both of those so we can get to the maximum of 8GB of RAM on this NAS. There's a bit of I/O on the back, there's some USB ports, there's an HDMI port because you can actually display from HDMI out to your television with this NAS, and also two 2.5 gigabit Ethernet adapters which allow you to link aggregate so you can get up to 5 gigabits of throughput with this NAS, and obviously the power right down the bottom. There's also a selection of lights. Now these lights will tell you things like your drive health, the power, the network activity, and all of that jazz. Pretty standard network attached storage stuff. Like I mentioned, Seagate was awesome enough to send us 4 16 terabyte Iron Wolf Pro NAS drives. Now, I'm actually a bit lost for words because these drives cost 1,000 Australian dollars each. That's $4,000 of storage that Seagate sent us. Absolutely bonkers, I can't believe it. Okay, let's populate the drive sleds. They're pretty easy to do. Each sled has 2 plastic clips which you pull off, which I didn't show in this clip. Basically, you pull them off, slot the drive in, and clip them back in. It's very, very straightforward. It's a very easy and elegant way to install drives. It's similar to most PC cases, and yeah, let's get them populated so we can jam those drives right in to get 64 terabytes of storage in this tiny little NAS. Man, I worked in data center, and having 64 terabytes in such a small space is crazy. Let's talk a little bit about the specs of the ASUSTOR AS5304T. Now, it features an Intel Celeron J4105 quad-core CPU with a base clock of 1.5 GHz, but it turbos up to around about 2.5 GHz. It's got 4 gigs of eMMC flash storage for the operating system alone. It supports SATA 3 drives, which can either be 3.5 inch or 2.5 inch, so it can be SSD or hard drive, with a maximum internal raw capacity of 64 terabytes of maximum storage. You can actually expand these all the way up to 16 drives with the expansion units that ASUSTOR makes for these systems. That means theoretically with the AS5304, including expansion units, you can expand it up to a whopping 256 terabytes across 16 drives. Crazy. That would also be very, very expensive. For expansion, you've got USB 3.2 Gen 1, and you've got 3 of those ports. There's 2 on the back and 1 on the front. The HDMI output is also HDMI 2.0. It's got an internal infrared receiver as well, which actually allows you to use a remote control. It's not in the box with this, but you can buy it separately, or you can use your phone to control it. And that's only if you've got it connected up to your television with HDMI. The AS5304T uses a specialized custom designed Linux distribution called ADM. It's quite similar to other Linux distributions on other NAS devices, but like I mentioned, this one has been designed specifically to run on ASUSTOR NASs. It also supports SSD caching, but I'm going to get into all of that stuff in the next part of this video. Let's set this up so we can have a little bit of a look at how to get this up and running. Okay, let's get it networked up just for a bit of a quick installation. All you want to do is plug in one Ethernet cable. Now this is for demonstration purposes only. This is not our final configuration. And you also want to plug in the power as well. Once you've got it all plugged in, press that power button and the ASUSTOR 5304T should spring to life. Now there's also a selection of indicator lights on the front. There's a power light, there's some health and network activity lights, and also drive health and status lights, which is very helpful if you wanted to know what your NAS is doing at a glance without logging in. It's very easy to configure. All you need to do is go to the ASUSTOR website and download the ASUSTOR Control Center, and it should detect on your network pretty easily if you've got a DHCP server running, which is basically everyone's network. It's pretty straightforward, and because I've never used this NAS before, that's right, this was captured for the first ever time we powered it up. There's an update. I would probably just update it out of the box like we're doing. It doesn't take too long, probably takes around 2 or 3 minutes. I sped it up so you don't have to waste your time waiting a whole couple minutes while I had to wait. And yeah, we're just going to give it a host name. Now it's called Nautilus because we name everything on a network after places in Final Fantasy games, and that's from Final Fantasy 13. Okay, I'm a nerd. I'm in Sydney, so I'm setting the time zone to Sydney. You can also get it to pull the time from the local machine, which is a nice feature if you're not sure what time zone you're in. Like I mentioned, we're doing a very simple network setup for this video. I will be diving into this a lot more in depth, but as you can see, you can activate link aggregation. There's a lot of load balancing settings in here. I would probably suggest using adaptive load balancing if you had a smart switch. Otherwise, yeah, active backup's also good too, but yeah, active load balancing is the way that I would go. But like I mentioned, we're not doing that in this video. We're going to dive into that in another video. I'm just setting it up easily and setting that manual IP address. Now you have a few options for RAID levels. You can set it up in JBOD. I'm going to be using RAID 5 with ext4, not ButterFS. ext4 is usually easier to rebuild. It's a lot more stable, and if I wanted to put these drives in another machine to do some type of recovery, ext4 is going to be easier. So yeah, I would probably suggest using ext4 as well, although it is completely up to you what file system you choose. Next up, what we're going to do is just let it do its thing. Now this takes like 3 or 4 or 5 minutes. I wasn't counting, let's be honest. I walked away while it did this bit because I had no idea how long it was going to take. The last thing it'll ask you to do is install a group of packages. That's optional. I didn't install anything here. Now these are Linux packages, they're ADM packages, and basically this NAS works like a desktop computer. You can install things like a Plex server, you can do DLNA servers, you can set up a MongoDB server, and I mean you can do an Apache server. Basically anything you want to do, you can do on this NAS that you can do on any other NAS. Now the interface is quite similar to QNAP. That's the first thing I noticed. I wonder if there's some cross-pollination going on there with the software side of it. But anyway, once you're all done with that, you're ready to go and start using your NAS. It's nice and easy. Hope you enjoyed that little bit of a look at the 5403T. Almost dropped it on my face again. Like I mentioned, there is another part of this coming. Yeah, so do all those things that you do on YouTube. Like, subscribe, all that other stuff. You know what to do. We make all the music here, so check out our Patreon. We've got merch, we've got all that stuff. We do all of the things. If you like this video, please like and subscribe. If you like this video, you know what to do, and tell us all you hated about it. Once again, thank you so very much for watching. I'm your boy Nick with Gear Seekers. You peek, we seek. And yeah, trying this unscripted thing, kind of hard, kind of funny, lots of outtakes, and it's actually a lot faster to produce. Thanks for watching.